The idea here is basically I've never done like a retrospective thing. I've never kind of done this like look back and see what I did and talk about the things that happened, and I feel like that is a slot that is missing from my stream. I feel like it's a thing that we could maybe do more often, slightly more often than once ever. And possible eternal darkness, it's definitely possible. I'm glad you're excited about it. I'm glad everybody's excited about it. I've heard good things about that game too, so that's maybe a thing that we'll do in the future. I say maybe because I never know what's going to happen, even like from week to week, let alone further away than that. Everybody's excited. Dang. You've only been trying to get me to play this for like 5 years. That sounds about right. That sounds pretty on brand. I'm slow to pick up some games for sure. Um, yeah. Odama. I don't even know what Odama is. I know that you've mentioned it, but I don't have like any other kind of reference point for it. Whoa. Wow. Thank you, Inkling, for the continued support. And congratulations to Color Brews. Welcome to the adventuring party. I hope you appreciate the fantastic emotes you now have access to. So you just throw games at me? Yeah, that's fair. Some of them I even end up liking. That's worked out okay. Use more than one save slot. Oh, I see. Okay, well, that's a thing to consider as well. You don't have any hopes pinned on any specific game. Ah, there you go. The shotgun approach. Some of them might land. And if any of them do, then that's your fault. Good job. You did it. Some of them definitely have landed. I've definitely liked some of the games that you've gifted. Not all, but certainly some. Mass Effect. Mershana trying to influence my game decisions. I see you there. Pinball voice-driven RTS, or an RTS that's powered by pinball, unlike anything else. Yeah, that sounds about right. That's definitely unlike anything I've ever seen. Pretty pleased with your record on gifting now? Yeah, sure. I think I agree with that. I think there were a couple of games that were like interesting, but not necessarily worth playing more than once. But there's also been games that have been absolutely fantastic. So, yeah, Heaven's Vault and Hades, high contenders. I just absolute blast with all of those games. Absolutely. Actually, so this is the thing that I didn't realize is the first game I played in 2020 was Outer Wilds. There was like some continuation. The first game I played in 2020 was RimWorld, but this is after having played a million hours of RimWorld already, and same with Graveyard Keeper. But like the first evening game was Outer Wilds, which is absolutely fantastic. Like Outer Wilds, if I'm going to keep this as like game of the year in terms of like games that I played this year, it's absolutely Outer Wilds. There's no game that comes even close. Hades is fantastic. I had a lot of fun with Heaven's Vault, but Outer Wilds is definitely my game of the year. La Mulana was over a year ago. This is now like whenever I do these moods posts, it's usually like a month or two after I've actually played the game. You're glad you didn't watch it? That's completely fair, because it's absolutely a game that I think people should experience for themselves. And, you know, if you don't want to, if you know you don't intend to play it, if you know that you're going to bounce off the space controls or something like that, then, like, absolutely I recommend my stream. But Outer Wilds is absolutely one of the games that I would highly recommend you play for yourself if you feel like you can, because it was such an enjoyable experience for me. Like, the explorations and all the various things that can happen. Speaking of moods videos, like it's the same theme holds true, right? I have these La Mulana moods videos, but it's based off of gameplay that I did in like November or whatever. So I have an Outer Wilds mood video somewhere up here. Here we go. Before like it actually takes a while to do like the highlight video. Not that it takes a while to do, it takes a while for me to get to, which is definitely a thing. So I have like the many deaths of Outer Wilds. This is 11 minutes of wildly different ways for me to die in Outer Wilds. A fantastic game. Outer Wilds was so good. I don't know. Do we want me to just like play videos, or are we mostly just going through stuff here? I feel like every single stream of Outer Wilds had a really good highlights reel. There were, what, 6 streams of Outer Wilds before I got to the end, and every single one of them has their own highlights reel. I could probably string it together if I had any gifted video editing whatsoever. Yeah, Dwarf Fortress Part 1, that was definitely in 2020. Man. What else did I start in 2020, right? Like, I don't really want to spend too much time talking about RimWorld, which I started in, like, 2018, probably. I mean, it's Part 1 because it was the first time I played it. Not that there is ever going to be a Part 2, but, you know. Apparently Mindustry I first played in 2020. And that was also, like, kind of long, but not necessarily worth keeping on after a while. Autopilot Into the Sun, yeah, absolutely a feature. It's so funny. Grifflands is new, yeah, there's a lot of new games in 2020. What did I play after Outer Wilds? I don't know how much time we're going to spend talking about afternoon games. I guess the ones that have taken over my life we should probably talk about. After Outer Wilds was Darksiders. Remember Darksiders 1, you guys? That apparently was 2020. Monster Train was 2020? Absolutely. How much Darksiders did I play? Looks like about 30 hours of Darksiders? Which is close to how much Outer Wilds I played, right? About 30 hours, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. Maybe a little bit less. Yep, DS1 and 2 both in 2020. This was that year. Vexus. Okay. Excellent. The more people watching, the better, honestly. Man. Yeah, all of my, like, La Mulana Moods videos are here, because this is when I finally got back to the actual La Mulana videos and did some editing to put together interesting things that happened, as opposed to just the entire La Mulana video. Ah, the Chromecast is working. Excellent. We've gotten good value out of Chromecast, too. Chromecasts are not 2020, though. So yeah, Darksiders through to Darksiders Part 6. More Mindustry. Mindustry was fun. I don't know that I'm going to go back to it. Apparently they've overhauled the entire campaign. But that was good. So DDLC was not 2020, but this is when I finally took the time to actually put together videos for it. But then I have, like, actual highlight reels from Graveyard Keeper, because Graveyard Keeper was fascinating. Although it took, like, 120 hours in Graveyard Keeper to find, like, individual good moments. God, Graveyard Keeper is a long game. I'm into it, though. The first RimWorld DLC stream, yeah, that was, where was that? Is that here? Yep. In February, which is when the DLC dropped. RimWorld, also a fantastic game that I still need to go back to, along with all of the other games that are fantastic that I need to go back to. CSD 3 dropped in 2020? Like, can we talk about Cook Serve Delicious? Hang on, I'm actually going to click through this. I want to see that opening video again. Where's the opening video? As a government, I just want to find the intro video. That's all I want from this. I don't know how long it's going to take to find it. You can also call. Does it do it, like, right at the beginning? Oh, it totally does.
What if we get 3?
Oh no.
That has.
All right, we're gonna start
The CSD 3 lore. This video was fantastic. This whole game was fantastic.
There's an opening cutscene.
But also this
game
intro was
has
fantastic.
cutscenes, you guys.
Also, remember when I had color in my hair?
The year is 2041, and the United States is reeling from war. But that hasn't stopped business from.
I still can't get over Texas.
Welcome to Tasteville recently opened its 1000th restaurant. Chili Bowl bought a small island.
It's not auto editing. I have done that editing myself, Cryptomancer.
And as for Cook Serve Delicious, well, it continues to be regarded as the finest restaurant.
My mild distress over Max Wieners.
Until it was destroyed 20 minutes ago.
Oh no.
I do not use
There we
dark
go,
mode.
Super Tower.
The secrets are out.
Easy on the brakes, Whisk.
Sorry, Cleaver. This old hunk of junk needs some love and care.
Jeez, look at this place.
Do you remember this pile? the, random,
Find out.
the random subscription notification.
Survivor. I think I found a survivor. Give me a hand. On my way.
Terragon!
All right. 1,
Oh no.
2.
See, Senna, your jokes last forever.
Holy crepe, is that the chef from Cooks Are Delicious? I'm such a big fan.
Chef, I've got some good news and some bad news.
Holy.
Grapes and brain hemorrhaging.
Minor
but your
brain
restaurant
hemorrhaging.
It's gone.
All right, enough of that. That's good. That's fine. This is more than I wanted. Enough. What else? What else do we have here? So Darksiders. Oh, we have Gravity Ghost. Maybe let's not talk too much about Gravity Ghost. We had Untitled Goose Game. Ooh, Untitled Goose Game back in January, February, March. March would be the third month. Yep. Untitled Goose Game was fantastic. I don't think I have a single bad thing to say about Untitled Goose Game. Goose, yeah, absolutely. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, just because I ask questions doesn't mean I want answers. But thank you.
Honk. Good. Good. Honks can occur. I have like an Untitled Goose Game, supercut somewhere in here. I don't know how long it took to actually make all that. I should have a separate, you know what? Hang on. I have an idea. If I want my supercuts, this is where I go to find the supercuts, because this is how I have titled. So here's a quick trick for anybody who's looking for videos. I have this link, which is a far more easy to use interface to search for clips and VODs from my channel than the Twitch interface. The Twitch interface is garbage. Don't use it. But I have all of my like supercut videos, which just like editing all the different bits of videos together, all the cool highlights and stuff, are under this like moods category, which goes as far back as like Alien Isolation. So early 2019 is when I started putting these videos together, the supercut videos. But yeah, it's all under this kind of this system. So if you ever want to see my supercuts, this is where they are. Although all of these are only individual streams. I haven't yet found a good way to string together video from multiple streams, other than exporting the entire stream to video and then going through like legit video editing software, which I suppose I could do, but have not done. Playlist of alt hair streams. The hair is pretty consistent though. Goose Mood sounds like a great jazz band. Wow. Yeah, for sure. I'm on board with that. Oh, remember Slay the Spire? I don't. What is Slay the Spire? I've never played that game. We got Goose Game, we got Minoria. Minoria was interesting. I don't know, I feel like Minoria was fun to play, but had a lot of misses on it. Could title them big moods? Absolutely. Some moods are bigger than others, for sure. Like, I feel like I had fun with Minoria, but most of the lore was trash. Most of the the like character interactions and the world building and stuff was like very questionable. Mechanically, it was good though. And then we proceed into the giant games, the games that lasted forever. Crosscode was this year. Oh, there's a lot of painful games, absolutely. Should I be keeping like a list of the games I played so that I can rank them? Give you my top 10 of 2020? Crosscode forever. We played a lot of Crosscode here. Just how hard is it to get to the Sun Station? That's a goddamn mood. Man, I loved Crosscode. Did any of the grief simulators happen in 2020? I don't think so, actually. Maybe. Gravity Ghost. Yes. Gravity Ghost is a more recent one. I don't think we've done any since Gravity Ghost, right? Like, there was concerns about the Garden Between, but that ended up being okay. Or that ended up being not as grievous as some of the other games. But, like, Rime was not 2020. The other game that we played very close to playing Rime was also not 2020. I don't even remember what game it is now. I just remember that Rime and the other game happened, like, very close to each other. Yeah, I don't think I am bad at spaceflight. I don't think I want to play a game that is solely spaceflight, but I don't think I'm bad at it. We had Prime Mover here, right? That showed up somewhere on this list. Was Prime Mover? Yeah, Prime Mover. Remember Prime Mover? This game was fascinating. I feel like there's still more fun to be had in Prime Mover, but as it gets more and more complex, it gets the activation energy goes higher and higher. It's less easy to try and get back into the game. Outer Wilds moods. I kind of want to just sit and play all of the Outer Wilds moods videos because goddamn do I miss Outer Wilds. That game was so good. Except that'll be like 45 minutes of like Outer Wilds supercut. Space buggies in Elite and space legs. Oh, I see. A lot of space. But yeah, so Crosscode. Crosscode took up a bunch of the stream. Crosscode 15? 15? I think 15 is the end of Crosscode. Which is like 75 to 80 hours of Crosscode? That's a lot of Crosscode. Top 3 each for night and afternoon stream categories. That's fair. Opus Magnum is a very pure puzzle game. It is not super good as a stream game, I agree. But I've had a lot of fun with it. Definitely had a lot of fun with it. I miss Crosscode. Not that I necessarily think that it's worth bringing back, but I had a lot of fun with Crosscode. Crosscode was a fantastic game. There are a lot of afternoon streams, that's for sure. Some returns to previous games, some Dead Cells, some Frostpunk. Played a bunch of Frostpunk. Ape Out was a good one shot. It was a good one shot. It turned out a lot better than I expected it to, actually. It's not the kind of game that I would usually bring onto my stream, but it worked out. It definitely worked out. It was interesting to play, and it did not overstay its welcome. Limelight was absolutely fantastic. Wow, Limelight was so good. I really liked Limelight. Do I have a Limelight Moods video? I don't think I do. Limelight maybe deserves a Moods video. Now it's a little late to go back and put it together. Too bad. Glad to see the back of La Mulana, I understand. La Mulana also very long. Drawd. Drawd was interesting. I still don't know whether or not I want to go back to Drawd. Like, I think I had some fun with it, but I also think that I'm not, like, super invested in it. Like, I think it's the kind of thing that maybe I'll go back and play some, but maybe not stream. I wonder if that's how I feel about Opus Magnum as well. Like, there's definitely games that I enjoyed a lot, but think are not good stream games. Yeah, at this point, it seems unlikely that I'll go back to it. That's fairly clear cut. But I definitely enjoyed the puzzle aspects of it. La Mulana, yeah. La Mulana's not even on the list. La Mulana wasn't a 2020 game. We're talking about old games now. Why are you talking about old games? Way too old. Anglerfish. Yeah. It's also interesting here, not just to see the games that I played, but the things that I thought were worth highlighting. There are a lot of Outer Wilds highlights. Because people have opinions. Okay, well, I guess you're allowed to have opinions. I guess I won't stop you. All of the CSD3 that we played this year. We played a bunch of this. I'm not mad about that either. The bottom 5 of 2020. All right, I guess I need to start keeping a list. Okay, all right, hang on. I'm going to open up a doc. Should revisit Dead Cells again? I don't know about that. Like, I think it is a fantastic game, but I also think that I have done basically everything in Dead Cells that I feel like I want to. Like, even with, you know, new content and new biomes and maybe even new bosses, like, I feel like I did a lot of the things that I intended to do. All right. Outer Wilds, Crosscode. What else was on this list? I don't want to play with katanas. I mean, maybe I want to play with katanas. Darksiders is on this list. Well, I'm going in order. Yeah, Heaven's Vault is absolutely on this list. Have no fear, buddy. We'll get there. And then I also have a separate list for Afternoon. We started Mindustry for the first time in 2020. Started CSD3 in 2020. Like the little palette cleanser games between bigger games. Yeah, I mean, in general, the like short but sweet indie game experiences are definitely things that I value, and I'm glad that we get to do that in addition to being able to sink a bunch of time into the bigger games. DDLC was not in 2020. Just because I have highlight videos doesn't, like, the highlight videos are made long after the fact. So no, DDLC is not on this list, but the videos are here. You can always go back and watch the videos. Darksiders. Gravity Ghost, yep. Untitled Goose Game. I'm gonna like put these relatively in order as I think of them. How much did you miss? We're now going back over it because I'm writing down things. Untitled Goose Game. Minoria. Minoria was good. Minoria was kind of good. Minoria is forgettable, but it was still fun to play, right? Like, that's... Dwarf Fortress. Bottom of the list. Worst game I have ever played in my life. Not true, but still. Not a game I ever intend to go back to. Like, I have the one thing the one comment I made about comparing Dwarf Fortress to an abusive relationship. I have that clipped, right? And that I still feel like that holds true. Dwarf Fortress is Stockholm Syndrome simulator. Just more Outer Wilds. Everything is Outer Wilds. Why play anything besides Outer Wilds? Prime Mover we played for the first time. Prime Mover also fun, but not really a game that I can stick with. I don't know. It's a little hard to come back to. How does it compare to Break the Game? Break the Game is an entirely different thing. Like, you can't compare those two. There's two super different experiences. I think Dwarf Fortress is a better game than Break the Game. but like it's, you know, comparing apples to screwdrivers, right? Like it's entirely two different things. Ape Out was good. Ape Out was solid. I liked Ape Out. Limelight was amazing. You'll be yeah, fine. Go for it. All right, back up the list. Drawd was not sure where to put Drawd on this list. I think the Steam release of DF has a new video on the Steam page showing their progress in replacing the menus with actual UI. Oh, really? Wow. Yeah. Ape Out was good. Ape Out was what it presented itself to be, and did not overstay its welcome, and was fun to play while you were playing it. Like, I have no complaints about Ape Out. I don't think it was amazing, but it's not the type of gameplay that I usually like choose. But it was very enjoyable for what it was. Absolutely. I think I put Drawd. So I'm kind of separating these into like the story game categories, the like game that ends quickly categories, versus the games that you just play until you are done playing with them. And like I kind of feel that the pure puzzle games like Drawd and like Prime Mover fit into that second category more than they fit into the first category. Which is not to say that they don't have endings, but just that because they were such a long experience, it kind of fits into like, do you want to push through the end of this? Is it enjoyable enough that it's worth continuing to play at that point? It freaked out and won't show it? Really? It's not showing up on the activity list. Like I'm not seeing it as a thing that has happened. I believe you, but I'm not seeing it. I don't know. Dispute the deep lore of Steven Sausage Roll. Yeah, Steven Sausage Roll also fits in that category. I still think the lore in Steven Sausage Roll absolutely does. I have alerts up. Absolutely does like add to the game as opposed to being completely secondary. And it's maybe not like a twist, but it's definitely not what I expected. But yeah, it's not story driven per se, right? It's very, very. If you're looking at it at the story of the game, it comes in very small drips and drabs until the very end. Ape Out, Limelight. Where are we on this list? Drawd. Retrograde. That was played that for not very long. I think Retrograde still has potential, but it certainly didn't come across well on stream. And the interface was kind of a hassle too for Retrograde, right? Like I couldn't quite play it the way I wanted to play it. Not a strong recommendation for me for Retrograde. Although it probably is enjoyable on its own. Coin Crypt. Oh man, we played Coin Crypt the once and then never went back. I think that's probably fair, to be honest. How far your sanity is degraded over quarantine. Yeah, and that's true. Like part of this is, you know, remembering all of the quarantine that we've done, which is I think Coin Crypt is still a good game. It just shows that like how many afternoon games I've played that I didn't think were good games. Good Snowman is Hard to Build was fantastic. Really like that one. I was actually surprised with how much I liked A Good Snowman is Hard to Build. This worked out really, really well. I'm glad we ended up going back to it and finishing it, as opposed to all of the other puzzle games that I've abandoned after one stream. Ori's not your thing? Oh, I loved Ori. Ori was so good. Gato Roboto also was really, really good. Putting Gato Roboto on this list, fairly high up. I don't know where to put the shorter puzzle games. Frostpunk was not entirely a 2020 game. The Last Autumn DLC was 2020, but most of Frostpunk was earlier. I've yet to play it all or even watch much of Ori 2. Ori 2 was fantastic. Ori 2 was really, really good. I really enjoyed Ori. Apparently, my first randomizer play was in 2020. Oh, that makes sense. That's when it came out. Bloodstained Randomizer, you guys. That was a lot of fun, too. I still go back to it every once in a while. Like, I haven't been streaming it, but I'll still play, like, a rando every once in a while. You love the genre and HK, which is basically Grim Ori. That's fair. I have not played La Mulana Rando. I don't see myself ever doing that. I don't have the familiarity with the game to make it worth it. There's still too much of the game that I don't understand or don't remember. Yeah, fixed. It's... I don't like the way they fixed it, but I do agree that it is quote-unquote fixed. I think La Mulana Rando is actually a good game, but you need to know what you're doing. You really need to know what you're doing. Like, an LM Rando run is going to be something like 3 or 4 hours. As opposed to 40. But that's because you know what the solutions to all the puzzles are. Puzzles, again, in air quotes. I've seen a little bit of LM Rando streams, and they've been interesting to watch, I think. Just, I mean, I like La Mulana still like appeals to me as a game, though, right? Like, I still like La Mulana. Ah, there's that sub. How's it going, Vexus? Thank you so much for the subscription. Welcome back to the adventuring party. Thank you for the 3 months of support, and glad you're around. Happy to have you around. It took a while to go through, but there it is. Hour and a half to learn to kneel at a pot. It's true. It's true. Like, the game is very arcane, dense, obfuscatory. It's you have to think about it the right way, and it's real difficult to do sometimes. Yo, Marshana, thank you for the gift subs, and congratulations to T. Jinter and Moradin Smith. I hope you both appreciate the fantastic emotes you now have access to. Give me emotes. That's as good an excuse to gift subscriptions as any. I appreciate that. So yeah, Ori. God, let's talk about Ori. This game is so good. Yeah, anything that you get given as a sub gift, like an emote that you are awarded as a result of being in a place where a sub is given out, I'm pretty sure those are permanent. I really, really liked Ori. I really liked the first Ori. And then, like, Ori 2 was more Ori, which was exactly what I wanted. I think some of the ways that they built it out to have a little more stuff in it maybe didn't land quite as well as the original Ori experience. But, like, I'm not mad about it either way. You know, having, like, the central area and quests that you go back to. Like, the races were really cool. Some of the collectibles were maybe not as satisfying. They tried to make it more like Hollow Knight in tone. Huh. That's not the impression I got. There were definitely some parts of it that were super bleak, which, I mean, that kind of fits all of Hollow Knight, right? But, for the most part, I thought Ori was still just a absolutely beautiful exploration of a large variety of landscapes, right? Like all the different biomes in Ori were so different from each other. So it's really hard to say that, like, you know, the tone of the game as a whole feels like one thing or another. I do agree that it was darker than Ori 1. But I don't think that's really a problem. Overall, I felt the story was pretty good. I mean, straightforward. Like, I'm not worried too much about it. There was certainly more, like, you like this character, character's dead, in Ori 2 than there was in Ori 1. Like, or Ori, yeah, the town mechanics were new to Ori 2. And I feel like those maybe didn't quite land as well as they might have hoped. Like the ore collection thing with various projects that you could unlock, I felt like was a little weird. And the idea of, like, very, very random collectibles that didn't feel like they mattered too much other than to, like, return and continue a quest were a little weird. But, like, more things to find is also fine. Like, it just in general, I think part of the strength of Ori is taking advantage of the various platforming abilities and giving you cool places to go and neat mechanics to engage with. So Ori, I feel like, landed on that perspective. And the races were so good. Most of the races were so good. Like the races are really what I want out of Ori. In terms of, like, excuses to play the platforming game, which is the most fun about Ori, is just the incredible variety of techniques and abilities you have access to for the purposes of platforming and getting around. And it's so much fun to kind of just run around and jump off of things and bounce off of things and yeet yourself off of various enemies. And, like, I just love the abilities in Ori. I love the platforming. I love the ability to move around. It's so good. There's so much to do. Man, Ori and the Will-O-the-Wisps. Ori was very good. I'm slotting Ori 2 in my list in between Untitled Goose Game and Limelight, for the record. So that puts Ori 2 as third best so far, underneath Outer Wilds and Untitled Goose Game, because really Untitled Goose Game is on a pedestal of its own. Where are we here? Good Snowman was good. Enter the Gungeon. Huh. So my first game of Enter the Gungeon was in May of 2020. Here we go. Middle of May. Gungeon was a good game. I don't think it stuck with me. I feel like there's a bunch of other games in that category that I would rather play over Dungeon, but that or Gungeon rather. But I don't think that takes anything away from how good a game Gungeon is. And I do kind of like that the progression in Gungeon is more about variety than about making you more powerful. Like, if you are good, then it's like you can do well at the beginning with no bonuses, right? And it's just different guns that you might or might not have access to. It's not a matter of, like, making your character stronger so that you can go deeper into the game. It's just about giving you more toys to play with. And there are a lot of toys to play with in Gungeon, so that's super cool too. Like, Gungeon is a good game. I don't feel like it's good for me, but I don't think that makes it a bad game. I might like Undermine. Yeah, I might like Undermine. People have brought that up before as well. Undermine is certainly a thing that is on my radar as a game that exists. It's not something I'm going to seek out, but I don't know. Maybe I will. Maybe at some point I'll pick up Undermine and try it out. Undermine is all about unlocking varieties of items rather than boosting stats. Yeah, I think that is a potentially better way to do meta progression than the way some of these other games do meta progression, right? Like, if the way you're doing meta progression is stats, then you have to choose how to balance your game. Like, is the game beatable at base level and then it just gets easier as time goes on? Or is the intent that the game is only beatable once you start maxing out stats, in which case all you're doing at the beginning of the game is getting to the point where you're allowed to play the game? Because like it kind of lines up with this sort of like the real game is either base level with no power or the end of the game once you have unlocked everything. And it's kind of one of these is the real game and one of these isn't, right? You kind of have to make tuning decisions about where you want the game to be. And I feel like Hades actually manages this very nicely because as you unlock more abilities, the game itself also gets harder, right? Like with the Pact of Punishment and with extra other enemies that show up. And like, so I appreciate the way that Hades has done it. Even though I feel like with Hades, the real game is after you have done most of the unlocks, rather than while you're still unlocking stuff. But also, like, the storyline and the narrative is tied into the unlocks. So it's not like you're skipping to the real game by getting past that. Like, all of the narrative, which is a very important part of the game, is tied into the meta progression, which is interesting. Undermine is interesting because unlocking boosts versus more item options for each run is actually a tough and interesting call. Okay. But eventually you unlock everything, right? And then you're just giving yourself boosts. Like, that's all you can spend that resource on. Because 20XX definitely lines up in that way, right? At some point, there's no more extra stuff to unlock. So if you have any meta progression currency, you're spending it all on making your next run easier. If you're spending it at all. 20XX also on this list. So I feel like 20XX I kind of don't like the way 20XX does meta progression. Like, I think the interesting game in 20XX is without any of the meta progression. Maybe some of the unlocks, but like the abilities that make you stronger or faster at the start of the game, or like siege you with some sort of items, or like I feel like that's leaning more towards the game is now too easy and no longer as fun to play. Whereas with no meta progression, even though you don't have as many unlocks, the game was very interesting and tuned at a good level. The variety from the different characters, yeah, maybe. The character differences in 20XX was nice. I wish there were more characters, though. It kind of makes sense they did it the way they did it, right? It's, you know, Mega Man and Zero, but I could definitely have hoped for more. Anyway, where were we? Gungeon. So past Gungeon on to Break the Game! I don't think Break the Game was very good. Sorry. Like, the conceit for Break the Game is interesting. I thought Break the Game was somewhat funny. Like, I feel like Break the Game was a vehicle to tell the jokes that it wanted to tell. Well, I still need to get a well emote, don't I? That's all you really got out of it? Fair enough. Yeah. Lo-fi comedy routine. And then it built a game around the jokes that it wanted to tell. And I feel like the game was missing some things. The game itself didn't really land. And the narrative that it wanted to tell was like, okay. There's definitely some of the humor that didn't land at all. And then by the time you get to the end of the game, it feels like it's trying too hard to be a thing that it's not quite landing at. The comedy version of Crossing Souls. Kind of, maybe? Yeah, not a big fan of Break the Game. Gotta admit. I think out of the list that we have so far, Break the Game is probably the bottom of that list. I do appreciate what he was trying to do, I just don't think he did it very well. Evo Explores, that was forgettable. I don't really know what else to say about Evo Explorers besides that. It was kind of pretty. It had the in terms of like the puzzles, it was like Cut Rate Monument Valley, which Monument Valley was good. But then it had some kind of like weird narrative thing going on, and I don't know. It was. I don't. Yeah, I just don't. There wasn't much narrative. It felt like it was trying to. It had this like moral that it was trying to give out, and I don't know that it ever successfully did. Also, I think it was stupid. Stupid moral. 20XX was next. We've already talked a little bit about 20XX. 20XX was a lot of fun to play, and definitely felt like a Mega Man game, which was, of course, the entire point. We talked about the meta progression some, because we were talking about Hades. But the actual gameplay of 20XX was fantastic. Remember Evo and not Bummer Town. Fair enough. Like, if you ever liked playing any of the Mega Man X games, 20XX is absolutely a return to form for that. And, like, a proc-gen Mega Man game is probably most of what any Mega Man fan actually wants. So I feel like it did what it set out to do. But I also don't know how much replay value it has. I think that's kind of where I landed on it. It was a lot of fun while I was playing it, and then I kind of ran out of game, maybe. Like, I probably could keep playing it. I think it would be fun to keep playing. But I don't feel like there's that much more to explore in 20XX. And the meta progression doesn't really appeal to me. And, like, playing through all the stuff that I already know about 20XX, I think is, like I'm comparing, 20XX is basically like a Mega Man rando, right? So I'm comparing 20XX in my head to Bloodstained. And I think Bloodstained comes out on top. The DLC is the big thing if you don't have it yet. Oh, really? I don't think I have it. Maybe I should look into the 20XX DLC then. That's interesting. Because I feel like if it plays with the formula, if there's more stuff to do there, then that maybe gives me a reason to go back to it. That's a thought. That's certainly a thought. But yeah, all that is to say that 20XX is not a bad game. I think it's a fantastic game. But I also just don't think there's that much to do in it. Like, I think it kind of, the way that it mixes up content and the way that it does meta progression means that the game kind of runs out. Maybe a little bit earlier than you might expect. One character who has a whip thing but does very low damage, but restores sub-weapon energy with every hit. Oh, it's a mage. Yeah, great. That game needed a mage. Because Zero was not, and Mega Man was not. Heaven's Vault! Oh my god, what a towering edifice of a game. I really liked Heaven's Vault. I think objectively, Heaven's Vault not as good of a game as some of the other games that we've already noticed, but that doesn't mean that I don't like it more. I think Heaven's Vault is one of those games that I rate as like, how much I like it is like up here, and how good of a game it is maybe closer to here. Show the plaque. Oh yeah, the plaque! Hang on, let me go get the plaque. Because this is definitely part of the 2020 story. Hang on a second. Glory to Heaven's Vault. No, I got it. I saw your cheer, Senna. So I guess I'll just tell this story again, because I think it's a great story. Mershana has a friend with a laser cutter, and with collaboration from people in the stream, and The plush anglerfish, yup, that was this year. Because of course it was. I definitely appreciate the idea that I deserve plushes of things that I hate. I do really like the plush anglerfish. So yes, the story of this plaque is with the help of a variety of people from the stream who provided information on translations and stuff, as well as getting a friend to help with like the laser cutting and stuff. Mershana put together this wonderful thing, which says "Live, Laugh, Love" in Ancient. So if this is something that that you've ever wanted to know or see, this is it. And it's fantastic. It's like a great joke and is a perfect plaque. Like I could absolutely have this hanging on my wall somewhere, and I very much appreciate that I have it. So new chat people know what plushes to get me in the future. Sure. If that's how you want to do it. But yeah, I very much appreciate this as a gift, and I think it worked out. Very well. Yeah, and it makes me remember how Ancient works. I definitely want to. You did post that video. It was a good video. I want to keep up with Ancient. Like I want to. I don't want to lose that skill, even though it's completely useless outside of further replays of Heaven's Vault. But I like that this is part of my head, right? I like that I have this like weird alternate language knowledge. Want to be able to speak Ancient. I mean, it's basically just a cipher for English, but it's interesting. So yeah, Heaven's Vault. I don't know where I rank Heaven's Vault in terms of how good a game it is. Future version of Navajo Code Talkers someday. Yeah, kind of. It's a concept cipher. Well, so it's not like a. I kind of think of it, yeah, like a concept cipher, but it's a cipher for English specifically, right? It's not letter for letter swaps; it's word for word swaps. So it's like kanji, but for English, which is just a super weird concept. I think I'm sticking Heaven's Vault between like above A Good Snowman is Hard to Build and below Crosscode. Man, I would love to play another game like Heaven's Vault, but also, you know, having sunk like 60 whatever hours into it, I definitely have a feel for where it did things wrong and how frustrating it can be to get into it, and what like how much it provides as a game. But I definitely like it above how good of a game I think it is objectively, just because the kind of gameplay that you get in Heaven's Vault, the kind of puzzling that Heaven's Vault was, is it feels pretty unique. Like you don't really get that kind of like language style solving in almost anything. Like I wish that existed in more games. There was like a brief section in Frog Fractions 3 with it, which I thought was really cool. With the frog that you had to like use the symbols to tell him to push the crate around so that he could get the key or whatever it was. I really like that part. But like otherwise, any like language stuff in a game is always ciphers, right? Like Fez was just a cipher, and Hyperlight Drifter was just a cipher, and there's not very many games where it's not just a cipher. And I think any game that does something like that where it's not just a cipher is Chronicles of Teddy. Yeah, kinda, huh? I think that was also like a... Well, for the most part, it was a Chronicles of Teddy was about learning the word you needed and then using that word as opposed to any kind of actual decoding of language. Right? Like it was about acquiring the piece in order to tell somebody something rather than using these tools to understand what people are telling you, right? I don't know, maybe I should go back to it or like review some of the puzzles in Chronicles of Teddy. But you're right, there was some element of like language associated stuff in Chronicles of Teddy too, even though it was kind of used in a different way. Interesting. Chronicles of Teddy was also a surprisingly good game. Where are we? Heaven's Vault, Monster Train also. So this is my first Monster Train play in May. Right around the same time, Monster Train. What a fantastic game. Jesus Christ. Monster Train was excellent. I also really like card games. So, you know, Monster Train definitely fits into that category for me. And I never did make it to Covenant 25, did I? Too bad. Should have sunk more time into Monster Train. But, fantastic game. I don't really know what else to say about Monster Train. Like, playing off of the formula being provided by Slay the Spire and putting in some pretty cool twists. And definitely bringing a unique look at the genre rather than just another look at the same game. Just something I very much appreciated about Monster Train. Yeah, Monster Train was good. Man. And that's it for the first half of 2020. This thing only shows a certain number of videos at a time, which is why I've limited this to these dates. But now if I go through the end of the year, you can see like the furthest down it goes is middle of June. This is more crosscode stuff. Griftlands was in June. Just after Monster Train was Griftlands. And Griftlands still in early access, half a year later. And also still a fantastic game. I think I am more excited about going back to Griftlands than I am about going back to Monster Train. I think they're both fantastic. And I am excited about both of them. But I think Griftlands, like, in terms of bringing something unique to the table, I think Griftlands brings more uniqueness to the table than Monster Train does. Definitely excited about playing more of that. Inching nearer to the rough part of the 2020 lineup. Sometimes I wonder if my stubbornness is doing myself a disservice. Sticking to some games and seeing them through, even if maybe I'm not having the most fun. But I don't know. There are games that are like, even if I'm not enjoying them as much as I've enjoyed other games, I feel like that's not enough to bail on them. Because somebody's probably still getting something out of it. And as long as people are enjoying it, like, I'm okay with it. That's kind of how I felt about Sorcery. Like, I wasn't super enthused about Sorcery, but I was having enough fun with it that I was okay to keep playing it, and it felt like I wanted to get to the end rather than bail mid-game. No. And then after Griftlands is Hades. And I think we all know that Hades is just utterly fantastic. Game of the year, absolutely. I would still put Hades underneath Outer Wilds, but two completely different experiences. Like, at this point, I don't even know what to say about Hades that I haven't already said. The game is so good. The game is just so good. Yeah, I think I really just don't know what else to say about Hades. I think I've said almost everything that I need to. Past Hades, Starbound. Playing Starbound for the first time. Starbound was good. Badger me for months to get me to play. It's true. Starbound was good. I think Starbound ended up being a little bit too open-ended for me. Like, getting to other planets and having it all be procedurally generated quests and not feeling particularly unique was kind of off-putting. The crafting system felt like it was not that important, as opposed to Graveyard Keeper, where the crafting system was central to it, which is one of the things that I really liked about it. I think I would have enjoyed exploring the crafting system in Starbound more, but the crafting system wasn't the point of the game. Like, the exploration part was the point. When are you getting the Leah emotes? I'm actually still talking with Gia, the artist that's made all of my previous emotes. We've been going back and forth a bit. It turns out it's really hard to get a Leah emote that reads as smug at the size that the emotes come out. But we're working on it. Leah and Six are the two emotes that are going to be coming up in the near future as soon as we finish going through the iteration process. So yeah, I think Starbound was good. I think, again, it's one of those games that's like better for other people than it is for me. Six, the robot from Heaven's Vault, Marshana. And I think that would be Jim the Unimpressed, Hamu. Because that's the emote that I'm going for, is that sort of like flat, like, Six just being like, what? Kind of face. Which was, that went over well with the stream. The stream liked that one. So we have Smug Leah and Unimpressed Six that hopefully will be arriving in the near future. And then after that, a well emote, because that sounds like a thing that this stream needs. What tier will those be? I'll probably do another vote. Like the last time I had new emotes, I did a vote, and then whatever comes out, like the highest voted ones, will be the first tier, and then like as many slots as I have, and then into second tier and third tier after that. A Dusa emote? Oh man, we could definitely have room for a Dusa emote. The only problem is figuring out like what these emotes do. Like, if you're looking at my my kit of emotes as a toolbox, right? You have to have emotes for a specific purpose. You have to have emotes that you will use in a particular way. So it's the question of like finding a thing that you can use it for that doesn't overlap with an existing emote, or maybe it means I replace an existing emote, right? Like, I've had some of these emotes for quite a while. So mostly I am looking for emotes that will cover for slots that I don't already have. So like Six being Unimpressed is good. I feel like Leah Smug kind of overlaps with Jim the Cool, but not completely. Oh yeah, the Dusa like sweating thing, that would actually be perfect. That would be perfect. The like embarrassed smile, that would be perfect. That would actually be really good. All right, well, that's on the list too now. Here we go. Well and Dusa sweating. Megara's just done with everything. That's like Meg's entire mood. Which is kind of what the 6 emote is for, so. Where are we? Starbound. Past Starbound. More Bloodstained. I am glad that there continues to be more Bloodstained content. I would like some more expansion to the randomizer. I would like the randomizer to be a little bit more different from what it is, but it's not going to stop me from keeping playing it. Like, the Bloodstained rando is still pretty good. I think you get an animated one, Hades pounding the desk. It's true. I think you can do animated emotes on Discord. So maybe I could get an animated one specifically for the Discord. But I would rather focus on getting emotes for Twitch first. English Country Tune. This one was also really good. This was another puzzle game from the Steven Sausage Roll guy, right? We only did the one stream of it, so there's still more of it to play if I wanted to go back to it. But by the time I started getting to the end of what I did in this stream, it also felt like it was getting harder with less value for solving it. So, like, you stuffed Ambrosia into her post-haste. Yeah, that's fair. I definitely avoided getting Meg up and running. Meg is one of my later things. So Snakebird, kind of. Snakebird also we never ended up finishing because it was just like felt like it was too slow, felt like it was low value to solve. It's another one of those things where like I might still be playing it if I wasn't streaming it, but like I'm not planning on streaming the end of it, but I might go back and do it offline. But there's so many other games that I want to play that I'll probably just never end up going back to it, which is typically how this kind of thing works. But English Country Tune's still a good game. Let's see, where does Starbound go on this list? I think Starbound goes below Gungeon but above 20XX. I think English Country Tune is kind of its own category, right? I kind of maybe don't think I can put the puzzle games in the same category as the like narrative focused games or the various like roguelikes / colony sims / other kind of forever game. Should have a separate category for those. I feel like Good Snowman is hard to build, and Limelight also fits into this second category. Move things around into different lists. You did stream when you finished all the bosses in it? Sure. Yeah, I never did get to a boss fight in Starbound. Like, I was too busy doing the more open-ended stuff, which is maybe part of the problem. Like, there's really no focus in Starbound, which kind of means that I never get anything done. That is my impression of Starbound. What is this? Oh, yes. Vavocado. Vavocado. Thank you, Cook Serve Delicious. Holy Potatoes, a weapon shop? Also, I think a terrible stream game. Maybe entertaining enough to keep playing, but not a game I'll ever stream again. Like, it's amusing enough, right? Like, the sense of humor in the game is acceptable. But it quickly gets super, super grindy. And then, like, that doesn't feel like it's worth streaming. I don't know. It feels like this is a platform, right? This is a game that is harder to stream than some other games, which is, I think, why I've kind of not gone back to games like that sometimes. Doesn't really direct. If you get sidetracked, if you were blocked on progression, you just kind of go off and forget about the blocker. Yep. Was silly, but also a mobile game. I'll believe that. Fall Guys. Yep, Fall Guys is on this list. So yeah, like I think it's it is good enough as a time sink. But not a game that I'm really interested in streaming again. Like I feel like as a stream game, it's pretty uninteractive. Forgotten Anne. Oh man. Remember Forgotlings, guys? This was interesting. I'm still on the fence about this game. You tried to forget them. I actually enjoyed this game. I mean, I enjoyed it while I was playing through it. Once you get to the end, like the narrative really doesn't deliver. It ended up trying to do some kind of weird things with the whole concept. And it got pretty weird at the end. Like it had a third act problem for sure. Yeah, there was definitely a lot of fascism in that game. But not really a game I'd recommend, I think. You liked Holy Potatoes better? All right. Really weird does not always deter us. That is very true. I'm generally in for weird. Like I'll sit here and try and interpret weird in a way that makes sense for hours. We've seen that before too. Too much allowance for the player to choose faster? Possible. There's also the question of like how much your choices actually affected the game, other than just giving you a different dialogue right then and there. So I don't know about that either. I think Forgotten Anne was maybe too linear for what it was trying to do. Like I think it would have been cool if your choices mattered. And I don't know that your choices ever mattered. So it's super weird. It's like a just kind of off-putting to have those choices in the first place because they don't matter, but it feels like they should matter. You like Goose Game better? I like Goose Game better than a lot of games, to be honest with you. Right now, Goose Game is second on my list. Forgotten Anne, pretty close to the bottom. Then Crossing Souls. Crossing Souls, absolutely bottom of the list. The less said about Crossing Souls, the better. Crossing Souls was pretty bad. Then Fall Guys. Fall Guys is good. Fall Guys was a good game. I don't know. I feel like Fall Guys was fantastic for a period of time. Even like a good long time. Fall Guys was just completely fantastic. I was very excited about it, eager to play more, and then it just dropped off for me. And at that point, it went from this game is great and I'm having a lot of fun to let's play something else. Without much of a curve to the drop off. So I still think Fall Guys is a game I would recommend to people, but I'm like not that interested in going back to it. I don't know. Still a good game though. Crossing Souls had a good soundtrack and nothing else. Yep, pretty much. Be a candidate for deleting from VODs? No, I'm not planning on deleting anything from VODs. I am happy that the VODs exist. People are welcome to go back and watch whatever VODs they want. I will just let them know that I don't think it's a pretty good game. I think it's a pretty bad game. Loot Rascals. This was another of Glittermancer's gifts, right? This is a Glittermancer one. This was cute. Rip Fall Guys, I miss loving you. That's it, right? Like, I don't miss playing Fall Guys, but I do kind of miss loving Fall Guys. It's weird. I'm nostalgic for the relationship that I had with Fall Guys, not the actual gameplay of Fall Guys. Loot Rascals was good. I think at the end it ended up landing as like something that wasn't quite good enough given the category of game that it was. But I absolutely appreciated the aesthetic and the sense of humor. I don't know where I put Loot Rascals here. Yeah, exactly, Marshana. Well, not exactly like that, but like more like missing being in a relationship rather than missing the person that you were in a relationship with. And you know, maybe having good sex is a part of that, but like overall there's a kind of magic and mystique to being in love with a game, regardless of what the game is. You know, it's the NRE of first discovering a game. And I feel like the drop off after losing that NRE for Fall Guys was really sudden. Weirdly sudden, maybe. So yeah, after Fall Guys, Loot Rascals. I'm still trying to decide where to put Loot Rascals in on my list. Loot Rascals feels... It's interesting. It's kind of a roguelike, but it almost feels like a puzzle game more than a roguelike. But I really liked the aesthetic of it. I liked the tutorial character or whatever his name was. I don't remember what his name was. I don't remember anything much about it. And the system was fairly unique and pretty interesting. Like it worked out really well. But also, I think it had a difficulty spike in the mid game. If it was roguelike, you didn't see the incentive to replay. Like I think the difficulty spike in the mid game for Loot Rascals was a little high. Like it didn't the curve wasn't particularly smooth, and like you either had a build that would take you through the mid game or you didn't, and regardless the early game was fine, and then you get to the mid game and you're either dead or you're not. And I think I was dead every time. I don't think I ever did particularly well once that difficulty spiked up. But it was fun to play while I played it. I think it was not a bad game. I think I'm kind of comparing it to Coin Crypt. I think Coin Crypt was a better game than Loot Rascals. But for all that, I think Loot Rascals was enjoyable to play with. I think that is actually a key difference. I think Loot Rascals was fun to play with, if not exactly fun to play. Once you got deeper into the game. Miles and Kilo! This game was great. This game was short and sweet, and a superb aesthetic, and enjoyable platforming, if a little simplistic, and was over in about 2 hours, and was just great the whole time. I really like Miles and Kilo. This is mistitled. This should be Frog Fractions 4. Miles and Kilo was good. I am putting Miles and Kilo below Gato Roboto and above Ape Out on my my list of shorter contained experiences. Crosscode is on that list also. Not exactly a short or particularly contained experience. Talking about linguistics in Heaven's Vault. Am I going to share this doc at the end? I guess so. I could. So the way I've got it right now is I have like an evening game list and an afternoon game list and a puzzle game list, because sometimes puzzle games were evening games and sometimes puzzle games were afternoon games. Frog Fractions. Interestingly, I felt like this Frog Fractions did not land quite as well as Glittermitten Grove. I thought Glittermitten Grove was a better game. I thought Glittermitten Grove did more interesting things with the Frog Fractions formula and was better at the like weird nostalgic callouts that Frog Fractions is famous for. I think it even was not as good as the original Frog Fractions. Like, Frog Fractions 1 felt like such an iconic experience for me. It felt like it was such an important thing to be able to do with games. And I hadn't really seen anybody do something like that before then. The Blood Card team put another roguelike deck builder out in April called Dark Mist. Wow. Okay. That sounds like it could be a decent time filler. But also... my roguelike deck building list is a little saturated. Like, there's a lot of really, really good entries into that category. And I'm not sure that I trust the Blood Card team to put out a good entry into that category. Blood Card was fine. Blood Card was fun. I don't think Blood Card was better than most of the other options. It was still good. Just not as good as other things. It's a little weird. I feel like most of the entries into roguelike deck building have been fun games, have been good games. So it's like, your opposition there, the games that you're kind of measuring yourself against, that list is pretty stacked. It's like, you really got to do something particularly unique and particularly good in order to make a real entry into that field. And Blood Card was neither of those. Blood Card was not at all unique. And Blood Card was pretty good. Enjoyable, for sure. But definitely not as deep as many of the other games. And probably overall, like, not quite as polished, not quite as... just not quite as anything as any of the other games, right? Like, you compare it to Slay the Spire, you compare it to Monster Train, you compare it to... yeah, like... We've seen a lot more interesting entries into the field recently with Monster Train and with Griftlands and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That you kind of really need to do something particularly cool. And Blood Card didn't. And I don't know if Dark Mist is going to do any better. Alright, where are we here? Miles and Kilo. Frog Fractions. This is where we're at. Trying to decide what I feel about Frog Fractions 4. So yeah, I feel like on the list of Frog Fractions games, it's kind of low. That said, it was still, like, the humor in the Frog Fractions franchise, I think, overall has been fantastic for all of the games. Like, just the narrative in Frog Fractions 4 was great. It was really, really fun to kind of follow along and see what was going on. I think that Frog Fractions 4 did some weird stuff with the mini games. Like, I feel like maybe Twinbeard is out of um good ideas for the kind of side things to do that aren't the main narrative, like the weird balderdash gameplay, the also like the story for FF4 was just completely off the wall bonkers in a way that the story for FF1 was not. And I guess FF2 didn't really have a story. It was just a thing that you did. um Frog Fractions 1 almost didn't feel like it had a story either. Like, each of the individual pieces to Frog Fractions 1 felt so disjointed that it didn't really feel like it was trying to put together any kind of complete narrative. Although, I guess if you actually follow along, each piece is supposed to be a piece of some overall story in Hop's journey to bug Mars or whatever the hell. So it is kind of jarring to go from 1 and 3 to 4, where they're looking at the story of FF1 as a single relevant narrative and moving on from there and extrapolating like with various entities that you've associated with, and story callbacks to the first Frog Fractions, and trying to, like, I don't even know where it's like, I think it's fascinating. I think it builds, the way that it builds off of Frog Fractions 1 was neat. Especially like, yeah, the way that they released it, especially, right? Like that kind of is the same thing. They released it kind of the same way that the story builds off of Frog Fractions 1. So that's interesting. I think overall it was still good. Not as good as the others, but still good. I think that's where I land on it. Kind of middle of the road, though. Ah, Deponia! This game was trash also. Deponia slots in just above Crossing Souls, and I have no reason to ever go back to it, I think. Goal. Yep. I'm interested in not talking about Deponia, I think. So Child of Light, let's talk about Child of Light. Child of Light was cute. It had its own problems, but I did mention Miles and Kilo. Miles and Kilo was great. It was very short. There's not a lot to say about Miles and Kilo, but I think Miles and Kilo was a fantastic game for what it was. So Child of Light. I liked Child of Light for a while. I think the RPG mechanics of the game are interesting. I think it does like an active time battle system in a way that very few other games have done, which is neat. And gave you some tools to play around with that I also haven't seen in other RPG games. Yes, I think Deponia is a slightly better game than Crossing Souls. And also, I don't want to go back and finish Deponia. Not even sure where you're going with that poem, Senna. Child of Light, man, yeah, the rhyming scheme for Child of Light was a struggle for sure. I think actually, like, it was intended to be cute, and sometimes it was, but overall, it made the game more difficult to get into. So why is Deponia higher? Because after because I think Deponia is a better game. I hated it less. Yeah. It sounds like the question you're asking is, why didn't you finish Deponia, even though you finished Crossing Souls, if you think Deponia is a better game than Crossing Souls? And that's because after finishing Crossing Souls, I valued my time slightly higher. Like, having finished Crossing Souls and learned that there was no redeeming value there, I'm not about to sink more time into a game that I don't think has redeeming value. Like, finishing it or not finishing it is not necessarily an indicator of how good the game is. Crossing Souls had some redeeming value in various places, and it basically tricked me long enough to keep me playing. Whereas I felt like Deponia was very upfront about what it was offering, and I think Deponia has more redeeming value than Crossing Souls, but not enough to get me to keep playing it. Like, the things that are... I had just played Crossing Souls beforehand, yes. The things that are good about Crossing Souls, the reasons to keep playing Crossing Souls, were the aesthetic, the music, and in some areas, the platforming and the combat. And despite the pain of the narrative in Crossing Souls, the other stuff kept me in the game long enough to get me to the end. For Deponia, I felt like it was about half and half on whether the humor landed or whether the humor didn't. And the actual gameplay, like the puzzle solving part of it, was, I think, fairly interesting. Like, it's a point and click adventure, right? So sometimes answers are nonsensical, right? Sometimes the answer is a rubber chicken with a pulley in the middle. And you know, I don't think anybody's going to look at any point and click adventure game and say this has good puzzles or whatever. But for the most part, I thought that Deponia was good mechanically and fairly interesting. I want to finish this thought though. And when the humor landed, it was actually pretty funny in a way that Crossing Souls kind of never was. But there was more than enough. I hate to use the word cringe, but cringe, like stuff that made me shy away from wanting to play more, that it pushed me away. And it was more concentrated in Deponia than it was in Crossing Souls. Yes, that is also true. There was a certain amount of fatigue with what it was offering. I need to put Child of Light on this list. Where am I putting Child of Light? Because Child of Light is next on the list, now that we're done with Deponia. Yep, all of those things. All of those things are accurate. It took a while. It took a bit longer for me to hate the main character in Crossing Souls. the way I almost instantly hated the main character in Deponia. But I still overall feel like Deponia had more redeeming value than Crossing Souls did. Okay, Child of Light. So Child of Light I thought was cute. I do think that the rhyming scheme made it more difficult to get into, rather than being something cute to follow along with. I really appreciated the mechanics of Child of Light. I thought Child of Light really delivered in terms of the combat and like the way that it did like spells, the way that it did like the crafting / equipment system for Child of Light, I think was interesting. I think Child of Light did a lot of really interesting things. I wonder if you'd have flipped which character you hated more right off the bat to some extent if the order I played them had been reversed. Maybe. It's possible. Yeah, I don't know. I was certainly primed because of Crossing Souls. That's not a lie. So I think Child of Light. Where does Child of Light fall on this list? Knew I'd like the combat given how bad you were at it. That's fascinating that that's how you put it. Okay. Yeah, sure. Oh, we skip past Rogue Legacy 2, which I also think is fantastic. Man, I'm really excited to play more Rogue Legacy 2. Where do I slot Child of Light on this list? I think Child of Light goes in between Minoria and Forgotten Anne. I also think I rate Minoria higher than a lot of the people who watched it, which is kind of why I'm putting it where I'm putting it. Yep. No, I understand that. I totally understand that, Senna. It's weird to say that we got to a point of misogyny fatigue, but that's about what that was. So Rogue Legacy 2, man. Rogue Legacy 2 has been fantastic. I'm really excited about more Rogue Legacy. I had a lot of fun with the original game. I've been having a lot of fun with Rogue Legacy 2. And as soon as there is more content, I am very excited to get into it. As soon as they introduce like a full New Game Plus loop, I'm probably going to sink a ton more streams into Rogue Legacy 2. I think this game is really good. I probably put it... Oh god, where do I put it? Do I think Rogue Legacy 2 is better than Griftlands or Monster Train? It's not as good as Hades. I think I put it under Cook Serve Delicious. I think I put it above Griftlands, which is definitely a personal choice. I don't know that it is objectively a better game than Griftlands, but I think given the choice between the two, I would rather have more Rogue Legacy content than Griftlands content. Yes. I am aware that I am a different kind of gamer than some people. I am absolutely willing to admit that. All right. So, past Child of Light now. A highlight of my first Theseus win. Oh my god, Journey. Journey was amazing. It's still kind of weird to me that I first played Journey in the year of our Lord 2020, that it took me this long to get to this game. But wow, is Journey a good game. Literally playing Cookie Clicker. Right? I feel like everybody needs something like that, you know, somewhere in their repertoire. Is the game that they're like, this game is not good, but I am still playing it. Different people get value from different things, and I completely respect that. I don't think I have much interest in playing Cookie Clicker, although I definitely continue to poke at Cookie Clicker-like games, and I'm still playing Kitten's game, so, you know, draw your own conclusions. Marvel Puzzle Quest, totally fair. Beat Cookie Clicker after like 48 hours. All right. It does always impress me when there are idle games that can be beaten, right? Like Paperclip Simulator is beatable, or whatever that game was. What was it called? Paperclip Simulator? Paperclip Optimizer? Paperclip something or other. Paperclips. It was the Paperclip game. Like, I like that had an ending. And there was another game kind of like that. Not kind of like Paperclip, but like some other... Universal Paperclips. Yes, that was the name of the game. There was one where, like, you wake up in a starship, and it was, like, a fairly short experience for an idle game. Like, overall, it was, like, 3-something hours, 4-something hours, if you just sat and played through it. And it was very much still this, like, idle game, resource collection kind of game. But, oh god, what was it called? I don't even remember what it was called anymore. I played it a long time ago. Not a Dark Room. Not talking about a Dark Room. Dark Room was also fantastic. Wow, that was a really good game. Where do we slot Journey? I am putting Journey in second from the top, just below Outer Wilds and beating out Untitled Goose Game. Journey is fantastic. I cannot praise Journey enough. XKCD's idle game? I didn't know XKCD had an idle game. What? Space Plan! Yes! Thank you. Thank you. Space Plan, Mark Magus. That's absolutely it. Oh, God. Yeah, I definitely have an idle game in my head that I would want to make real. Some kind of combination between, like, the resource management system and like, introduction of additional resources in Kitten's game, and the incredibly deep crafting system of Graveyard Keeper. Some game like that. That's what I want from an idle game. Man, I would never stop playing that game. If that game ever gets made. Oh, God. So Out There Somewhere, I don't remember this game at all. What game is this?
Hold.
Oh, this game! Wow, I completely forgot this game existed.
Exactly right to get the height.
Oh, yeah, this game was fun.
All right.
Okay, cool, yeah. Out There Somewhere. Sandcastles, apparently? Theory of Magic. Whoa, God. I clearly need to get a list of idle games from you folks, because this is all stuff that I am completely unfamiliar with and would be excited to look at. Where are we? Where's Out There Somewhere? Here. So yeah, this game was fun. Apparently 2 hours was enough to completely finish Out There Somewhere, which is nice. Yeah, it was cute. I really liked it. The platforming was fairly generic. But like the aesthetic was great, and the mechanical stuff of like the teleporting stuff was really, really interesting. I did finish this. It was short. It was really short. Like, this VOD, this 1 hour and 50-minute VOD is the entirety of the game. I probably slot this in... I think I slot this in above Ape Out, but below Miles and Kilo. That sounds about right. You picked it back up last night? Nice. Next is Darksiders 2. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Darksiders 2. Man, Darksiders 2 was Darksiders 2 outstayed its welcome. I think Darksiders 2 was more Darksiders 1. And I was not super enthralled about Darksiders 1. Castle.chirpingmustard.com. Sweet. I'm definitely coming back to this. I'm opening an extra tab right now. And I may eventually actually play it. I think Darksiders 2... Do I think Darksiders 2 was better than Darksiders 1? Probably. Ordinal markup. Oh, man. I gotta remember to go back to this list. So what do we have? We have the XKCD game, Chirping Mustard, apparently. Ordinal markup. What else was on this list? Theory of Magic. Gotta write all these down. This is no place for a horse. Yeah, probably. Time layers. Wow. Cool. Cool. Oh man, I'm really excited. I've been looking for some idle game to kind of waste time with since I've run out of other idle games to play. Well, I mean, I'm still in Kitten's game, but Kitten's game is at the point for me where it's like press buttons for like 2 minutes and then wait for another hour before I go back to it, or wait until I remember that it exists and then reopen the app. As much as I love Kitten's game, like, it's not a game that you just sit and play. Most idle games are not, actually. The right trigger reference joke, Jesus Christ. Darksiders, why? I think Darksiders 2 is better than Darksiders 1. I still think overall that it's not super good. I don't think that puts it above any other non-Darksiders game. But I am willing to slot it in directly above Darksiders. In the everything is terrible genre. I mean, Darksiders is Darksiders as a genre is, or as a series, has been a little tough for me to get into. Which is not to say that I'm not into it, but there's not really a lot there to keep me coming back to it. It's interesting. It's one of those games where it's like, I've enjoyed playing it while I'm playing it, but I don't, when I'm not playing it, I don't feel like I have a good reason to keep playing it. Like, if I'm choosing what game to pick up, Darksiders will not be my first choice. But if I find myself playing Darksiders, I'm having enough fun that I'll probably keep playing it. Pipe Push Paradise. Oh, this game was so cute. I really liked Pipe Push Paradise. I think it goes in above A Good Snowman is Hard to Build. This is now on the third list, the puzzle game list. But I still think Limelight was a better game. Pipe Push Paradise was definitely more serious than Limelight in terms of like how deep the puzzles go. But that's definitely not the only factor. I really liked it. I thought it was super cute. I had a lot of fun with it. The Great Crate Boxton. Oh, my highlight VODs. When I was first thinking about this as a concept for a stream, I was wondering how much of it would actually just be clicking on highlight VODs and watching highlights. And it turns out very little of it has been clicking on highlights and watching highlights. But it was definitely an idea. Yeah, I like the Pipe Push Paradise. So next is Gardens Between. You're still waiting for Zelda? So am I. I'm very excited about Majora's Mask. Gardens Between I thought was really good. Gardens Between was not quite as deep as I thought it might end up being. Like, I think the puzzles themselves were relatively easy, and I think designed in such a way that it's designed for the lowest common denominator, right? Like, I think they didn't want anybody to bounce off of it because the puzzles were too hard. And I respect that as a design decision. Like, overall, I think Gardens Between was... You're ready? Alright, great. I think overall, Gardens Between was solid. Like, it was fine. And in terms of, like, the short, narrative-driven indie game kind of genre, like, this is an indie game, right? Like, it's kind of a puzzle game. It's more about the narrative than it is about the puzzle. It's really an indie game more than it's a puzzle game. And as far as that category goes, I think it's fine, right? Like, medium. They do a good job of telling the story. It was impactful. Like, I was definitely into it while I was playing it, you know? I was engaged the whole time. But something about it is just like, I don't know, kind of forgettable. Like, it didn't surpass decent. You missed this one entirely? I actually think it's worth going back and watching. I did have a good time with it. And the puzzles were interesting enough. And the narrative was pretty well put together. But yeah, overall, like, I think it's a game I'll recommend to people. But it's not a game that I'll be super enthused about. It's like, oh, you have to go back and play Gardens Between. If somebody mentions that they're looking for a short, indie, narrative-driven game, then I'll be like, oh yeah, Gardens Between is pretty good. But it's not. I'm not just gonna jump out and be like, hey, you should play Gardens Between because it was pretty good. Like, that's not how I'm approaching this. I think I put it. I think I put it between Frog Fractions 4 and Miles and Kilo. Again, this is a situation where it's a little hard to compare just because of the kind of game it is compared to, like, other games that are in the evening list. But I'm kind of on the fence of whether it goes above or below Frog Fractions 4, which feels like a pretty damning indictment of Frog Fractions 4, actually. I mean, I think that's where it lands, Mark Magus, is it was pretty good. Which is not a strong recommendation by any means, but, you know, pretty good. Let's see, after Gardens Between, we had Pendragon. So, Pendragon, I almost feel like it got, sort of not a really fair showing. I want to go back and see how different Pendragon is from Run to Run, but I don't want to do that enough to stream it again. Like, I feel like I have maybe, like, if it plays out the way I think it's gonna play out, I feel like there's maybe an hour or an hour and a half more of Pendragon that I want to play. And maybe there's more to it than that, right? Maybe there's more variety. Maybe there's more engagement. Maybe there's more gameplay. Maybe it's more of a game than I was expecting. maybe the way that the difficulty plays out with other characters is more engaging than I expect. But I kind of feel like I got almost everything I wanted out of the first play of Pendragon. And then by the time I got to the end, it got really hard by the end of the first stream. And I kind of want to play with the difficulty slider and see how hard it gets past that. Or if there's like a sweet spot with the difficulty, or if it just really, really gets really hard, like really quickly, and then you have to be amazing in order to get through it. Or if it's just super punishing and intended that you're supposed to take losses in order to get to where you're supposed to go. I kind of expected more narrative out of Pendragon. And the narrative is there, but there's also a lot of just random stuff that doesn't feed the narrative. That doesn't give you a storyline. I think I wanted Pendragon to be more like Hades. And it really wasn't. It's very, very difficult for me to rank Pendragon because I don't feel like I gave it a fair shake. I think I had expectations for Pendragon that weren't fulfilled, and then didn't properly appreciate what Pendragon did have to offer. And especially comparing Pendragon to Banner Saga, I feel like Pendragon is maybe worth revisiting at least a little bit. I suspect Pendragon is better than Banner Saga. But with worse map, maybe. It kind of feels like Pendragon and Banner Saga are trying to do the same things. And I feel like Pendragon has a little bit more variety to the mechanics. But Banner Saga did a much better job of working a narration into the system. I don't know. So where do I slot Pendragon? I'm looking at like the afternoon game list. I think I slot Pendragon in maybe between. It's like now I'm just like doing random one-to-one comparisons, right? Like, is Pendragon a better game than Mindustry? They're very, very different. How do you decide that? Is Pendragon a better game than Coin Crypt? Maybe not. Is Pendragon a better game than Loot Rascals? Maybe not. But also, I'm not intending to go back to Loot Rascals either. I feel like I put in Pendragon between Loot Rascals and Holy Potatoes, which is really low on this list for how good I think Pendragon should be. But at the same time, like, this was my impression of it after playing it for a bit. So, I don't know. Maybe just bin games is top, middle, and bottom. Maybe. Oh, I am sorry to hear it, Rubber Ducky. It's this is taking a while. I kind of expected this to probably take a while. I didn't know how much of a while it would take. But I've been liking going over this stuff, like going back and forth between like all the games that we played and seeing sort of what happened this year. But the VODs will definitely be there, and there will be Majora's Mask tonight. And now we're getting into where my VODs are still left over. So we're getting other things in here in addition to just like the summary VODs. Out with variety. Yep. That'll solve my problem. Exactly. So next on the list is Sorcery. I don't know how I feel about Sorcery. I played through it, but I think I played through it more out of obligation than out of being excited to see what happened next. And Sorcery was certainly a game. I feel like Sorcery is another game that maybe I would have. I feel like Sorcery is actually uniquely a game that I might have enjoyed more had I not been streaming it. Because I feel like a lot of the fun in Sorcery comes from experimenting with things and trying things out and revisiting territory and seeing where you can get things to go differently. And that ends up just being a ton of repetition for a stream game. There's also the question of just like in general how good are visual novels for stream games, and it's like you kind of have to make your own decisions on that. I feel like for my stream, visual novels maybe not that good, which is not to say that they're not fun and not enjoyable for the stream, but you kind of have to hit the right note in order for them to be a thing that we can stay engaged with. I think I'm lumping dating sims into visual novels kind of the same way. Like, Dream Daddy was hard to stream. It was a lot of fun, it was good, but it was not an easy to stream game. Sorcery, I feel like, falls into that same category of not easy to stream, but at the same time had less payoff. Making decisions with unpredictable outcomes? Yeah, absolutely. DDLC greater than other visual novels? That's certainly a choice that you can make. DDLC has some things going for it. I don't know if that makes it better than other visual novels, but it's certainly fairly unique among visual novels, and I appreciate that. So yeah, I think I didn't like Sorcery as much as I maybe could have. And I think overall it was not a super good pick for streaming. I'm going to say for this stream, because other people have streamed visual novels to great success, I'm sure. I wasn't super into it. I'm putting it pretty low on my list. It's also like part of my ranking system, right? Part of how I decide, you know, this game is better than this other game is like how much I'm willing to recommend it to other people. And I feel like there's not a lot to recommend with Sorcery. Tinkering with your own file system for DDLC? Yeah, it's true. It was pretty good. It was really good. So where are we past Sorcery? There's not been a lot of new afternoon games past here, right? Like, at this point, it goes till till after Sorcery. So we're done with Sorcery and moving on to Zero Escape before we get a new game. So that's like however many weeks here, like 4 or 5 weeks since Pendragon, with nothing new for afternoon games, just like afternoon games that I want to play. Just keep playing the things that I know I like. Not sure what that says for the stream. I'm not sure if that's good or bad. Sorcery was long, for sure. 9 Sorcery streams, I think. So, like, about 45 hours, more or less. 40 hours-ish. So, still shorter than Darksiders. Shorter than Heaven's Vault. half of Crosscode, right? We played some long games this year. There's been a lot of long games this year. But yeah, that's sorcery. So after sorcery is 999. Good old Zero Escape. Hope you like doors. God, what a... It's maybe a poor choice to have moved from fantasy visual novel to pseudo puzzle game visual novel. You like 999? I might still go back and play some more 999 offline. I have no intention of streaming it any further. Oh yeah, no, I'm very familiar with Glittermancer's casual sadism. Please make the correct decision or I will explain it again. Yes, they were over-explanatory. And I feel like that's a translation problem more than it is a core problem to the game. The other thing is, though, my roommate was really, really into the Zero Escape series. And I ended up talking to him about it. And he kind of just sort of dumped the entire storyline of the first two games. So I know where it's going with all the different pieces. Yeah. And wow, none of that makes any sense from where I ended up. Like, none of that even felt like it was stuff that I was leading up to. Just completely different from anything I expected out of the game. And I'm almost more curious now to go back and try some of the other storylines just to see how it gets there from where it started out. But it's a lot. There's a lot going on there for sure. But yeah, it also, like, it really shows its age, like, in terms of the writing style and the content. Sort of a... This was another conversation I had with my it hints at some of it with the random shit people talk about for no reason. Yes. There was a lot of, like, people talking about shit for no reason. And it was like, why does this matter? And in some cases, they were like, oh, it doesn't. Like, explicitly in the game. And then it ends up mattering. Star Wars Episode 1 of visual novels. Poor writing, great memes. Wow. I do still think it is better than some of the other games we've played. I think I'd even slot it in above Forgotten Anne. But not much higher than that. And then after Zero Escape was Carto, which was adorable. God, Carto was really, really good. I really like Carto. Where do I put Carto on this list? Carto's super cute. I like the puzzles. Like, not many... Most of the puzzles weren't super deep, but they were still fun. And then there were puzzles that were actually puzzles a couple of times in the game, and I really appreciated that. And the aesthetic was great. And the overall storyline was, like, predictable, but not problematic, which is great. Kind of nice to have a storyline that's not problematic. And, like everything that Carto was doing, it delivered on, I feel like. There was no point in Carto where given what Carto is and what it's intending to deliver, that I feel like it didn't deliver quite well on the thing that it was doing. You hated 999 the most of any game I've streamed this year. Wow. Wow. That's true. There were no actual puzzles in 999. I am putting Carto between Heaven's Vault and Gato Roboto, which puts it at 7th on my list of evening games. Carto was good. Carto was a very good game. Weakless. Remember Weakless? At least Phoenix Wright had some puzzles or things that were not obvious. Yes. Phoenix Wright actually asks you to solve problems, whereas 999 does not ask you to solve problems. It presents you with problems and then gives you the solution to them. Sometimes you have to click around to find the solution, but pretty much categorically, it is not about puzzle solving. It is not about puzzles. It is about following along the batshit narrative and the escape sequences, which are click on things. Keep on clicking on things until you've clicked on everything. So Weakless is next after Carto. I'm not sure what I think about Weakless. I feel like Weakless hits a similar point for me as Limbo did. Not Limbo, Inside. Because I haven't played Limbo. I've played Inside though. In the sense that it's like super linear and trying to tell a story mostly silently, mostly environmentally, and has some amount of exploration for like pickups and collectibles, but not a whole lot. And some amount of puzzle solving, not a bunch, but like a little bit. Enough to be able to say that it is a puzzle platformer. But I feel like it didn't quite deliver the same way that Inside did, even though Inside was pretty crazy by the end. I didn't really like the way that Inside landed. I thought Inside was great, was doing really interesting things up until the end, and then it ended, and I was like, wait, what the hell just happened? Why? Why is anything? Whereas Weakless is pretty straightforward pretty much the whole way through. And but at the same time it was, I hate to say it, but like a little weak. I found that the way that the while a super interesting gimmick and pretty well executed, the switch between deaf and blind made it a little hard to engage sometimes. It's a little hard to be engaged in the game when senses that you're used to relying on just don't exist for one character or another character. That said, it was short, which is a good thing for this kind of game. Even as short as it was, I feel like it kind of outstayed its welcome. And the last area was a struggle. It was pretty painful to go through. Like, the puzzle solving was not that interesting. And the weird mechanical thing where they're like, oh, actually, this is super overpowering for your character because of their senses, so you have to switch to the other character. But then whenever you switch to the first, you still have to switch to the other character, like, to do specific things. They don't just necessarily follow along in all the right places. And it's about like, because the one sense is so strong, they get overpowered by stimulus on that sense. And that was really painful to play. Like, not even about like solving the puzzle of it. It was just irritating. It was aesthetic though. It was a pretty game. I think I stick it between Forgotten and Sorcery. Like, I think it tried, but I don't think it delivered. What else do we have on this list? Banner Saga, Ruiner, and Blocks That Matter, I think, are the rest of the games that were new to me here. Talking about Banner Saga? Let's talk about Banner Saga. I think some of the same complaints that I have for Pendragon apply to Banner Saga. Although Banner Saga ended up being a little more grokkable in terms of the combat and less punishing than Pendragon. It's kind of interesting the way the narrative works in Banner Saga, because it feels like there's two opposing things going on, right? Like there's the visual novel aspect of Banner Saga, and there's the tactical combat aspect of Banner Saga. And it's a little hard to say which one is more important, but they're definitely at odds with each other. Like when you're going through the visual novel part of it, the tactical combat part feels like an afterthought. It feels like secondary, right? It's not something that is directly related to the visual novel, and it's just sort of there. Like you're doing these visual novel things, and then sometimes you have to engage in tactical combat, and you maybe get benefits for it and maybe you don't, but it's like kind of just like this weird thing that you're also doing in addition to the narrative stuff. But I felt like the tactical combat part was the more engaging part. I felt like it was more interesting. I felt like it was deeper. It was obviously deeper, right? Visual novel stuff, like just follow along the narrative versus an actual gameplay mechanics. But like the narrative was hard to stay engaged with how bleak the world is. And I definitely didn't feel like for all that they gave you choices in a lot of different places, I definitely didn't feel like I had any kind of actual control. Which sucks. Like it sucks to have choices but still feel powerless. Which was maybe the point. Like everybody was kind of powerless in that game. In that, yeah, like everybody was kind of powerless in that story. Feels super unfair. Yeah, absolutely. But for all that, the tactical combat part of the game felt more compelling, more interesting, it also felt kind of pointless. Like the progression, the character progression within the combat part of it was minimal, didn't feel super valuable. And like it was just, yeah, I understand Cryptomancer. I kind of feel the same way, especially when it's confusing. Like that's the worst part. Like if your choice doesn't matter, then your choice doesn't matter. But like if it's just confusing, like that's even worse. So I don't know. I feel like I was invested enough in Banner Saga to get to the end of it, but I don't think it's a game I'll recommend to people. People have hyped it up and it didn't live up to that. I agree. I agree with that, Glittermancer. I think I slotted in between Child of Light and 999. I felt like Child of Light was overall a more integrated experience, which you kind of need. And it, you know, had its own problems with like getting involved in the narrative. I think it was a slightly better game than Banner Saga, but not by much. Ruiner. This game is bad. This game has an aesthetic, and that's about all it has going for it. The controls were awful. Every control scheme that it had available had some problem with it that I couldn't deal with. It was kind of fun to play, but I also don't really feel like it had that much going for it. I mean, in general, kind of the arena combat system, the 2.5D arena combat, is good. Like that is a fine genre to enter a game into, and I don't feel like Ruiner was actively terrible on that front, like on the mechanics. Another one of your gifts. Yeah, I know. Um, but I don't think the narrative was particularly compelling. It was more confusing than compelling. You, the character, had zero agency. Um, and I don't feel like the combat parts of it played particularly well into the narrative parts of it. Devonog, you just want everybody to play Darksiders, though. um. So yeah, I think Ruiner falls into this category of like not particularly compelling, not like on a mechanical level, not like bad, but with enough roadblocks to actually enjoying it that I don't think I would recommend it. Yep, no, I understand that, Devonock. And I think that's how it's been for a lot of the longer games that people have gifted me. It's been like, oh, there's a thing that I really enjoyed, and I want to see you play it. And I think in quite a few occasions it has not landed as well for me as it has for the people that gifted it to me. And I mean, that happens sometimes. It's not going to get me to stop playing gifted games because I do want to give people that experience, but like sometimes I don't enjoy it as much as they did, and that it is what it is. I liked Starbound. I don't really know that I'll necessarily go back to it, but I liked Starbound. I didn't like Dwarf Fortress though. Maybe once it has an actual UI, I might go back to it, but not as it stands. Like, a bunch of the gifted games you have for me are shorter experiences, though. Some of them. I mean, I still have a long list of gifts to go through, in addition to the long list of other games I want to play. So there's plenty to do. I would need to figure out what multiplayer Starbound looks like. I think that is less interesting to me than other multiplayer games. Like, I think I would much rather play multiplayer Factorio or even like Stellaris or something like that. Last on the list, so after Banner Saga, last on the list is Blocks That Matter, which we have played briefly. And then, yeah, Majora's Mask is next. You had a better track record last year, maybe. You get to visit someone else's universe. Yeah, that doesn't sound super appealing to me. So I gotta figure out where I'm putting Banner Saga in this list. I think I am putting Banner Saga between Minoria and Darksiders. Is that true? I think I am putting Banner Saga between Darksiders and Child of Light. Um, Blocks That Matter. Blocks That Matter is a cute little puzzle game. I've enjoyed Blocks That Matter. Higher up than you would have guessed for Banner Saga. Yeah, I there's definitely problems with Banner Saga, but like there's also been some misses this year. There's been plenty of misses this year. Okay. Blocks That Matter. Oh, I have to figure out where I'm putting Ruiner. Ruiner's pretty low on this list, I think. I think I put Ruiner above Holy Potatoes. Um, Shadow Planet Headlander. Yeah, that's true. Headlander was cute, and Shadow Planet was I really like the Shadow Planet aesthetic, and it was over before it outstayed its welcome, which I appreciate. I think I am putting Blocks That Matter in between English Country Tune and Drawd. Which is middle of the road on the list of puzzle games that we've played, but we have played some very good puzzle games this year. All right, I am going to share games of 2020. I'm going to share a link to this doc in the Discord. Hang on. So anybody with this link can look at this doc. Sticking it in the Discord pile. I'll like Quantum Conundrum. I think I will like Quantum Conundrum. That seems likely. Quantum Conundrum is pretty high on the list of games that I want to play soon. I think that's about it. I think that's all I have to say. I think we've done it. I think we've gone through all of the games. Multiplayer Starbound is like multiplayer Factorio. One person owns the save and the other players join. That makes sense. But I still feel like multiplayer Starbound is less interesting to me than multiplayer Factorio, because Factorio gives you more goals. Like, I have more of a feel of, I know what I want to accomplish, whether multiplayer or not. And I feel like multiplayer Starbound is going to be similarly directionless as single player Starbound. So, like, I don't... Yeah, and Starbound is more sandbox. Exactly. Like, multiplayer sandbox games are kind of weird. Like, it feels like you need to have some sort of internalized goal in mind, and I didn't really have that goal for Starbound anywhere. But all right, that's going to be it for now.